The massive Alliance warship loomed over the gathered human fleet like a dark cloud of judgment. On the bridge of the lead human vessel, Hope's Dawn, Admiral James Stone stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the stars through the main viewport. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes held the weight of humanity's future. "All ships report ready for jump," Admiral reported Officer Mark from his station. The command center hummed with nervous energy as the crew worked at their stations. They were about to leave the last remnants of humanity. 2 million souls spread across 300 ships into unknown space. The Alliance had been thorough in their victory. Earth lay in ruins, human colonies burned, and now came the final humiliation: exile to the unexplored dark sector. The Alliance Council had declared it a fitting punishment for humanity's aggressive expansion and dangerous technological pursuits. Let them rot in that worthless sector, the Alliance Supreme Commander had sneered during the surrender ceremony. Not even bacteria survived there. Admiral Stone took a deep breath. "Send the signal. All ships prepare for synchronized jump." His voice remained steady, a beacon of strength for his people. The crew's fingers flew over their control panels, inputting the coordinates that would take them to their new prison. In the fleet's civilian ships, families huddled together. They had been allowed to bring only essential supplies and personal items that could fit in a single crate per person. Children clutched treasured toys while parents whispered reassurances they weren't sure they believed. The massive engines of 300 ships hummed to life. Officer Mark's voice rang out. "Jump sequence initiating in 10, 9, 8. Stone thought of Earth one last time. Its blue oceans, green forests, and sprawling cities. Now it was just another restricted world under Alliance control. 3, 2, 1. Space twisted around the fleet as the jump drives engage. The stars blurred into streaks of light, and for a brief moment, reality itself seemed to bend. When the universe snapped back into focus, the Alliance ships were gone. Before them stretched an endless expanse of unknown space. The dark sector. "All ships reporting successful jump," announced Officer Mark. "No casualties or system failures." Stone nodded. "Begin long-range scans. I want to know everything about this sector." He turned to address the bridge crew. "The Alliance thinks they've sentenced us to death. They expect us to fade away into history, a forgotten footnote about a species that dared to challenge them." He walked slowly among the stations, making eye contact with each crew member. "But they've forgotten something important about humans. We don't die easily. We adapt. We survive. And when someone backs us into a corner," a hint of a smile crossed his face, "we fight back harder than ever." The first sensor reports began coming in. The dark sector wasn't the empty void the Alliance claimed. There were planets within range, harsh worlds, yes, but not uninhabitable. Strange energy readings appeared on the screens, patterns unlike anything they'd seen before. "Sir," called out Science Officer Lisa, excitement creeping into her voice. "These readings, there's something unusual about this sector. The Alliance either missed it or deliberately hid it from their records." Stone leaned over her station, studying the data. "They were so eager to throw us away, they didn't bother to truly understand what they were giving us." He straightened up and addressed the bridge again. "Send word to all ships. We'll establish our first base on that rocky planet at coordinates 227 Mark IV. It's not pretty, but it's defensible and rich in minerals we can use." As the fleet moved toward their first new home, Stone sent a final message to all ships. "To all citizens of Earth and her colonies. Today marks not our end, but our beginning. The Alliance thinks they've written the final chapter of human history. Instead, they've given us a blank page, and we will write a story that will shake the very foundations of their empire." The fleet moved forward into the darkness, carrying the seeds of humanity's future. None of them could have guessed that this day of defeat would later be celebrated as the beginning of humanity's greatest triumph. 6 months after the exile, the human settlement on Haven was taking shape against all odds. What had started as a cluster of emergency shelters had grown into an organized base, with prefabricated buildings rising from the rocky ground like metal mushrooms. Commander Mary Wells stood at the entrance of her research facility, watching workers unload crates of equipment. Her latest discovery sat heavily in her pocket, a crystal unlike anything in human records. The local miners had found it deep underground, glowing with its own inner light. "Commander," a young researcher named Tom ran up to her, holding a tablet. "The test results are in. These crystals, they're not just energy sources, they're amplifiers. When we exposed them to our shield generators, the output increased by 300%. Mary's eyes widened. She had suspected the crystals were special, but this was beyond her expectations. "Show me the data." Inside the lab, screens displayed test results and energy readings. The crystal they'd nicknamed Haven's Heart pulsed with a soft blue glow inside its containment field. Mary studied the numbers, her mind racing with possibilities. "If we can replicate this on a larger scale," she said, "we could create shields strong enough to withstand anything the Alliance throws at us." She paused, then added, "Not that they're looking for us, but it's better to be prepared." Across the settlement, other discoveries were being made. Farming teams led by Dr. Alan Wright have found that Haven's soil, when treated with the right mineral compounds, could support earth crops. The first harvest was small, but it proved they wouldn't have to rely entirely on hydroponics. In the engineering sector, Chief Engineer Peter Ross and his team worked on adapting their technology to Haven's unique conditions. The planet's strong magnetic field had initially disrupted their equipment, but they'd turned that problem into an advantage, using it to power new types of engines. The Alliance thought this sector was worthless, Peter said to his team as they installed a new magnetic generator. They never bothered to look past the surface. Their loss, our gain. High above Haven, in the orbital construction yard, the first new ship built in Exiled was taking shape. Unlike the vessels they'd arrived in, this one incorporated everything they'd learned about their new home. Its hull contained layers of crystal-enhanced shielding, and its engines were designed to harness the sector's unusual energy fields. Admiral Stone visited the construction site regularly. Today, he floated in zero gravity beside the ship's growing frame, speaking with the project leader, Engineer Beth Miller. "She'll be ready for testing in 2 months," Beth reported proudly. "We're calling her Phoenix," seemed appropriate. Stone nodded, watching workers guide a massive panel into place. "How many of those crystal-enhanced shields are we installing?" "Double layers on all critical sections. If our calculations are correct, she'll be able to take hits that would have destroyed our old ships." Beth checked her tablet. "And the new sensor masking system is even better than we hoped. She'll be practically invisible to standard scans." Back on the surface, Mary Wells was making another breakthrough. Her team had found a way to grow the crystals artificially, ensuring a steady supply for their growing fleet. The process was slow, but each successful crystal brought them closer to true independence. As night fell on Haven, the settlement's lights created a dome of illumination against the darkness. In his office, Admiral Stone reviewed the day's reports. New technologies developed, resources discovered, problems solved. On his wall hung a map of the dark sector, with dozens of potential colony sites marked for exploration. He opened a channel to address all of Haven. "My fellow citizens, today marks 6 months since we made this harsh world our home. Many thought we wouldn't survive 6 days, but we've done more than survive. We've begun to thrive. Every discovery we make, every challenge we overcome, proves what I've always known. Humanity's greatest strength is our ability to adapt and grow stronger from adversity." He looked out his window at the bustling settlement below. "The Alliance gave us what they thought was a prison. Instead, they've given us the foundation for an empire. And they won't know what hit them when we're ready to show ourselves again." The crystal in Mary's lab pulsed brighter, as if in agreement with the Admiral's words. The future was beginning to look very interesting indeed. 50 years passed like a whisper in the vast darkness of space. What had begun as a single colony on Haven had grown into a network of 17 thriving worlds, each hidden from prying eyes behind layers of advanced stealth technology. Captain Robert Gray stood on the bridge of his stealth ship, Shadow Dancer, watching his crew prepare for another routine patrol. The vessel was a far cry from the refugee ships that had brought them to exile. Its hull was made of crystal-infused metals that absorbed sensor scans, and its engines left no traditional energy wake. "Contact at long range," reported his sensor officer, Jack. "Alliance merchant vessel, standard cargo type. They have no idea we're here." Robert nodded, studying the merchant ship through their advanced viewing systems. Over the years, they'd perfected the art of watching without being seen. Every Alliance ship that passed through their space unknowingly provided valuable intelligence. "They're still using the same old engine designs," Robert noted. "No significant advances in 50 years. They'd grown complacent." In the depths of Haven's largest city, now home to 500,000 people, the Science Academy buzzed with activity. The children and grandchildren of the original exiles had grown up with technologies the Alliance had never dreamed of. They learned to manipulate quantum crystals as easily as their ancestors had worked with electricity. Dr. Emma Ross, daughter of the legendary Peter Ross, led the Academy's Advanced Propulsion Division. Today, she was testing a new form of crystal-powered engine that could potentially cut travel time between colonies in half. "The crystals respond to human thought patterns," she explained to her students. The Alliance dismissed them as simple rocks because they couldn't form the necessary neural connection. Their loss, our advantage. Deep beneath Haven's surface, in bunkers carved from solid rock, the military command center tracked every ship movement in their sector. General Mark Stone, son of the original Admiral Stone, studied the holographic display showing their territory. "Another Alliance survey ship just passed the outer marker," his aide reported. "They still think this is empty space. The sensor nets are working perfectly." Mark allowed himself a small smile. 50 years, and they haven't noticed that their worthless sector has become the most advanced human civilization in history. The human exile fleet that had arrived with 300 ships had grown into a force of over 2,000 vessels, each more advanced than anything the Alliance possessed. They trained in secret, developed new battle tactics, and prepared for the day they would reveal themselves. In one of Haven's residential districts, an old man named Tom, the same researcher who had helped discover the crystal's properties 50 years ago, sat with his grandchildren in their garden. Above them, the once harsh sky of Haven had been transformed into a beautiful blue through decades of terraforming. "Tell us about Earth again, Grandpa," the children begged. Tom looked up at the stars. "Earth was beautiful," he said, "but what we've built here is something new. Something better. We took what looked like nothing and turned it into everything." The garden's crystals glowed softly, responding to the children's excitement. Like all humans born in exile, they had a natural connection to the strange minerals that had changed their society. In orbit, construction never ceased. New ships, new stations, new technologies, all hidden behind veils of sensor-blocking crystals and advanced stealth fields. The Alliance ships that occasionally passed through the sector saw only empty space and lifeless rocks. Admiral James Stone's grandson, William Stone, now commanded the fleet. Standing in his office aboard Haven's largest space station, he reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Alliance was still as arrogant as ever, still believing they had won their victory 50 years ago. If they only knew, William mused, watching a distant Alliance patrol pass by, completely unaware of the massive human fleet hiding just a few thousand kilometers away. "We've built an empire right under their noses." The humans of Haven and its sister colonies had learned patience. They had learned secrecy. But most importantly, they had learned to turn their exile into an opportunity that would soon shock the galaxy to its core. The time for hiding was almost over. The massive shipyard hung in space like a spider's web made of starlight and crystal. Inside its sprawling structure, Admiral Thomas Reed walked through the construction bay of humanity's newest warship, the Thunder's Edge. Unlike the crude vessels of their exile days, this ship represented the pinnacle of human achievement. The crystal core integration is complete, Chief Engineer David reported, his voice filled with pride. This ship can outrun and outfight anything the Alliance has ever built, and they'll never see it coming. The Thunder's Edge was massive, 3 kilometers of advanced alloys and crystal technologies. Its hull contained millions of microscopic crystals that could absorb or reflect energy at will. The weapons systems could tear through traditional shields like paper, and its own defenses were practically impenetrable. "How many does this make now?" Thomas asked, running his hand along a crystal-infused wall panel. 500 capital ships, 2,000 support vessels, and 3,000 fighter craft. David replied, "All equipped with the new quantum drive systems. We can move our entire fleet across the sector in hours instead of weeks." In the combat simulation chamber nearby, pilots trained in new battle tactics that would have been impossible with old technology. Their fighters moved in perfect synchronization, guided by crystal-enhanced neural links between pilot and ship. Flight Commander Anna watched her pilots from the observation deck. "The crystal connection gives us reaction times 10 times faster than standard pilots," she explained to Thomas. "In combat, that's the difference between life and death." The humans had learned to think differently during their exile. Traditional military doctrine had been thrown out, replaced by strategies that took advantage of their unique technologies. Ships could phase through solid matter, become invisible to all known sensors, and coordinate attacks with impossible precision. "Begin formation Delta," Anna ordered, and the simulation changed. The fighters split into groups, each executing maneuvers that would have torn apart conventional ships. The Alliance still fights like they did 50 years ago. They won't know how to counter this. Deep within the shipyard's research section, scientists worked on even more advanced projects. Dr. Ryan, head of weapons development, demonstrated their latest creation to Admiral Reed. "We call it the Crystal Storm," Ryan said, activating a holographic display. "It creates a field of quantum disruption that can disable any non-crystal-based technology within range. One ship equipped with this could neutralize an entire Alliance battle group without firing a shot." Thomas watched the simulation with intense interest, and they can't copy this technology. "Even if they captured one of our ships, the crystals wouldn't respond to them. We've evolved alongside these minerals for 50 years. The connection is almost genetic now." In the Fleet Command Center, tactical officers monitored Alliance movements throughout the galaxy. The humans knew every major ship deployment, every patrol route, every weakness in their former oppressors' defenses. "Look at them," Thomas said, studying the Alliance patrol patterns, still so confident in their superiority, still believing they know everything worth knowing about space warfare. A junior officer approached with a report. "Sir, the last of the stealth arrays is online. We can now move our entire fleet undetected through any sector of space." Thomas nodded, thinking of the old stories his parents had told him about the exile. How the Alliance had thought they were sending humans to die in an empty sector of space. Instead, they had given humanity the keys to technologies they couldn't even imagine. "Begin Operation Shadow Step," he ordered. "Move our fleet into position around all major Alliance trading routes. When the time comes, I want us to be able to shut down their entire economy in a single day." As he watched the holographic displays show hundreds of ships moving into position, Thomas felt the weight of history on his shoulders. The Alliance had forced humanity to adapt or die. They had adapted beyond anyone's wildest dreams, and soon they would show the galaxy just how far they had come. "Send word to all ships," he commanded. "The waiting is almost over. Soon, we'll show the Alliance exactly what they created when they cast us into the darkness." The hidden fleet moved silently through the stars, a phantom armada preparing to change the balance of power forever. The Alliance patrol cruiser Justice Seeker moved through what its crew considered empty space, Captain Ben of the Alliance sat bored in his command chair, watching stars drift by. Another routine patrol in the worthless dark sector, or so he thought. Captain, unknown energy signature detected. His sensor officer reported suddenly, confusion clear in his voice. It's like nothing in our database. Before them, space seemed to shimmer and part like a curtain. A massive space station appeared, its crystal-enhanced hull gleaming in the starlight. It was a trading outpost, one of dozens that humanity had built throughout their territory. By the stars, Ben whispered, his mandibles clicking in shock. That's impossible. This sector is uninhabited. The station's traffic control responded to their presence with a calm, professional message. Alliance Vessel Justice Seeker, you have entered Human Trading Post 7. Please maintain your current position. The patrol ship's crew stared in disbelief as dozens of ships suddenly became visible around them. Merchant vessels of unknown design moved gracefully between docking ports, their hulls decorated with crystal formations that pulsed with inner light. Sir, the communications officer called out, they're transmitting identification codes. They're human ships. But the technology, it's far beyond anything we've ever seen. Inside the trading post, Station Commander Helen watched the Alliance ship through advanced monitoring systems. Right on schedule, she said to her staff. They were bound to stumble upon us eventually. Notify command that first contact has been initiated. The Alliance crew's shock grew as they saw humans walking freely through the station's transparent sections. Not struggling survivors, but prosperous, well-equipped people going about their business as if running an advanced space station was perfectly normal. Request permission to dock, Ben finally managed to say. His superiors would want a full report on this impossible discovery. Permission granted, came the reply. Please follow the guidance beam. Welcome to Haven's Trade Network. As the Alliance ship docked, they were met by a human delegation led by Helen herself. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. The Alliance officers in their traditional military uniforms, the humans in sleek suits integrated with softly glowing crystals. How is this possible? Ben asked, looking around the advanced docking bay. This sector was supposed to be empty, worthless. Helen smiled diplomatically. The dark sector has been our home for 50 years, Captain. We've made some improvements since then. News of the discovery spread through Alliance space at FTL speeds. The council chambers erupted into chaos as reports and images flooded in. The humans hadn't just survived. They had transformed their prison into a technological wonder. Their ships don't even use conventional engines, one Alliance scientist reported to the council. The energy readings we're getting, they're beyond our understanding. And these crystals they're using. We studied that sector for years and found nothing of value. In Haven's Central Command, Admiral Thomas Reed watched the Alliance's reaction spread across their networks. They're starting to realize what they missed, he said to his staff. 50 years of advancement, hidden right under their sensors. The Alliance Council debated furiously. Some wanted to immediately reassert control over their former subjects. Others, seeing the level of technology on display, urged caution. We can't just ignore this, one council member argued. They've built an entire civilization in what was supposed to be empty space. Who knows what else they're capable of? Back at Trading Post 7, Helen continued giving the Alliance captain a carefully controlled tour. She showed him only what humanity wanted the Alliance to see. Enough to impress, but not enough to reveal their true military capabilities. Your people were meant to die out here, Ben said quietly as they watched ships dock and depart. Helen's smile didn't waver. Instead, we thrived. Funny how things work out, isn't it? As the Alliance ship finally departed, carrying reports and images that would shock the galaxy, Helen sent a message to Haven Command. First contact complete. They took the bait. They'll be back, and this time with less friendly intentions. The pieces were falling into place. Humanity's long wait in the shadows was about to end, and the Alliance was walking right into their trap. 3 Alliance battle fleets dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the dark sector. 200 warships, the pride of the Alliance military, moved in perfect formation toward the human trading post they'd discovered weeks earlier. Admiral Blake of the Alliance stood on his flagship's bridge, confident in his overwhelming force. "Send the message," he ordered. "All human settlements are to submit to Alliance authority immediately." In Haven's command center, Admiral Thomas Reed watched the Alliance fleet's approach on his tactical display. His officers waited calmly at their stations, years of preparation about to pay off. "They'd brought exactly the number of ships we expected," Thomas noted. "Send the signal. Execute Operation Daybreak." Across the sector, hidden human warships shimmered into view, not dozens, but thousands. The crystal-enhanced vessels appeared from what the Alliance had thought was empty space, surrounding their fleet from all directions. "Impossible," Admiral Blake shouted as his sensors registered the massive human fleet. Where did they all come from? The Thunder's Edge, Thomas's flagship, decloaked directly in front of the Alliance formation. Its crystal-lined hull dwarfed the largest Alliance vessels. When Thomas spoke, his message went to every Alliance ship. "This is Admiral Thomas Reed of the Human Defense Force. You are surrounded. Power down your weapons, or we will be forced to demonstrate our technological superiority." The Alliance Admiral laughed. "You're outnumbered. We have 200 ships." "Sir," his sensor officer interrupted, voice shaking. "I'm counting over 3,000 human vessels. Their energy readings, they're off the scale." To prove his point, Thomas gave a simple command: "Thunder Squadron, execute containment protocol." 12 human ships moved forward, their crystal cores pulsing with power. Energy fields sprang up between them, creating a massive barrier that trapped the Alliance fleet in a web of quantum force. "What is this technology?" Blake demanded, watching his ship's engines struggle against the invisible barrier. "This isn't possible." 50 years of advancement," Thomas replied calmly. "While you forgot about us, we were building something beyond your imagination." To demonstrate further, Thomas ordered a single human fighter to approach an Alliance cruiser. The small craft phased right through the cruiser's shields as if they didn't exist, then disabled its engines with a precise crystal pulse before phasing out again. Panic spread through the Alliance fleet as more systems began failing. The humans hadn't fired a single traditional shot, but already 50 Alliance ships were dead in space, their technology no match for crystal-based weapons. "This is your final warning," Thomas announced. "Surrender, or we will disable your entire fleet." In desperation, Blake ordered his ships to open fire. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the human vessels, only to be absorbed or reflected by their crystal shields. Thomas sighed. "Very well. All ships, execute Crystal Storm Protocol." A wave of quantum disruption swept out from the human fleet. Alliance ships began shutting down one by one, their systems overwhelmed by technology they couldn't comprehend. Within minutes, the mighty Alliance battle fleet floated helpless in space. "How?" Blake whispered, standing on his powerless bridge. "How did you advance so far beyond us?" Thomas's reply was heard throughout the dead fleet. "You gave us the greatest gift possible, the freedom to evolve without your interference. Everything we built because you exiled us." The student has surpassed the teacher. The human fleet moved into formation around the disabled Alliance ships. They could have destroyed them easily, but that wasn't their way. Instead, emergency power was restored to life support and communications only. "Return to Alliance space," Thomas commanded. "Tell your council what you've seen here. Tell them that the humans they exiled and forgot have become something new, something stronger." As human ships began towing the Alliance vessels to the sector's edge, Thomas sent one final message. "Remember this day. Remember that you forced this confrontation. And remember that we showed mercy when we could have shown destruction." The galaxy's balance of power had shifted in a single battle, without a single life lost. Humanity had revealed itself not as vengeful conquerors, but as an advanced civilization that had transcended its former masters. The age of Alliance dominance was over. 1 month after the battle, the Great Hall of Haven hosted representatives from every major galactic power. The crystalline chamber hummed with nervous energy as alien diplomats gathered to negotiate with the humans they had once exiled. Admiral Thomas Reed stood at the central podium, facing the Alliance High Council members who had rushed to make peace with humanity's new empire. Their arrogance was gone, replaced by a wary respect. 50 years ago, you cast us into darkness. Thomas began, his voice carrying through the hall. Today, we offer you light. He gestured, and the massive crystal formations in the hall pulsed with gentle radiance. The Alliance Supreme Leader, who had replaced the one who had exiled them, spoke carefully. The Alliance recognizes the human empire as a sovereign power. We seek peaceful relations and trade agreements. In the orbital shipyards above Haven, human and alien engineers worked side by side. The humans shared some of their basic crystal technology, enough to improve the galaxy's quality of life, but not their military secrets. The crystals respond differently to each species, Dr. Emma Ross explained to a group of alien scientists. We've learned to form a unique bond with them. We can teach you the basics, but some abilities will remain uniquely human. Trade routes opened across the galaxy. Human merchant ships, their crystal drives allowing them to cross vast distances in days instead of weeks, became a common sight in alien ports. The advanced technology they traded transformed countless worlds. In the Alliance capital, the council chambers that had once ordered humanity's exile now hosted human ambassadors. John, the head diplomat, addressed the gathered representatives. We offer friendship, not dominance. The galaxy has seen enough of empires built on fear. We propose a new way forward: cooperation, trade, and mutual respect. Back on Haven, the first alien tourists arrived to see the world humanity had built from nothing. They walked through crystal gardens where the minerals responded to emotions, visited schools where children learned to merge technology with thought, and witnessed the advanced ships that had so thoroughly defeated the Alliance fleet. "It's beautiful," an Alliance dignitary admitted to Thomas during a state dinner. "We thought we were sending you to die. Instead, we gave you the space to become something greater." The human colonies expanded, but not through conquest. Other species asked to join the Haven Alliance, drawn by its advanced technology and fair governance. Each new member brought their own strengths to the growing coalition. In orbit, the Thunder's Edge remained a symbol of human achievement, but now it led combined fleet exercises, teaching other species new ways to protect their worlds. The crystal technology slowly spread, changing the face of space travel forever. "We remember the exile," Thomas told a group of new cadets from various species at the Haven Military Academy. "But we choose to let it guide us toward wisdom rather than revenge." 50 years of isolation had changed humanity's perspective. They had learned patience, innovation, and the strength that comes from building rather than destroying. Their empire was unlike any the galaxy had seen, one based on technological advancement and mutual growth. Deep in Haven's crystal mines, where it all began, human children played with alien friends, their laughter making the crystals glow in rainbow colors. The minerals that had transformed human civilization now served as a bridge between species. "The galaxy feared us once," Helen said, watching the children from her office window. "Now they seek our guidance. What better revenge could we ask for?" In the Great Hall, Thomas signed the final treaty that formally established the new galactic order. The document acknowledged human independence and technological superiority, while setting up frameworks for peaceful cooperation. "We went from exiles to leaders in 50 years, he said after the ceremony. "Not through conquest, but through innovation. Not through destruction, but through creation." The stars shone bright over Haven that night, watching a celebration that spread across human space. They had proven themselves not just survivors, but pioneers of a new age. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the Alliance archives, The order of exile that had started it all gathered dust, a reminder that sometimes the greatest victories come from the darkest defeats. The human empire hadn't just shocked the galaxy, it had transformed it, creating a future brighter than anyone could have imagined.